Hello and a very happy new year to all of you. This is the best of Big Fight 2016. And I have to say that 2016 was one of the hottest years on record. And no, I'm not talking about climate change. I'm not talking about the weather. This is a year that really raised the temperatures within the Indian household and also outside it. Internationally, 2016 was all about Syria, about Brexit, and about the American elections as America chose its most controversial president in recent times. The debate over the crisis in democracies came to the fore as the alt-right made its voice heard. Closer home, the right flexed its muscles to establish the new normal, the new nationalist and the new anti-nationalist, with sporadic attacks on students, on minorities, men, women, caste, no barred. But here in India, 2016 will above all be remembered for one development, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi banned the use of the existing 500 and 1,000 rupee currency notes. We have ended up doing 5 shows on demonetization in these 50 days. This has perhaps been the first time in the entire history of the Big Fight that we did so many shows just on one subject, on snaking queues, on endless wars, on changing rules as the government tried to convert nearly 86% of a cash economy into a cashless one. At the same time, there's also been popular support for the move in many parts and much talk about big long-term benefits. Not surprisingly, we ended up doing show after show on the big pluses and the big minuses of demonetization. The substantive point that both of them are making, right? One is saying you could have done this a lot better. He's saying that if secrecy had to be maintained, we couldn't have done it any better. So weigh in on this. Which side of the scales are you on?
See, secrecy has nothing to do with preparedness in terms of pushing a large supply of 100 rupee notes and new 500 rupee notes, because these are the two denominations the poor people are demanding, right? Why couldn't they have done that? And I'll give you, Vikram, another health analogy. It's if this whole economy is like a body, there was a cancer of black money, it needed radiotherapy. What they've done is chemotherapy. A lot of small cells are getting destroyed.
Yes, okay, fine. Could you have done it in a slightly different? Can I just do a quick snap poll of the audience, by the way? How many of you have experienced a significant amount of pain in the last 2 days?
Ungraduate.
Okay, fine. Now, so not everyone experienced pain. How many of you in this audience would still welcome the step that has been taken? Wow, that's really interesting.
That's what a
That's
lot of
really
people have been put to inconvenience,
So
but then they are saying it. This is in national interest. We are willing to put up with this little inconvenience because it's going to cleanse our economic system. It's actually a surgical strike against the corrupt and the black money hoarders, and the common man is happy about it.
Surgical operation in the
can I just give a rider? Can I
It
just
is
give a
not
rider
the
to that? Can I give a
black
rider to
market
that? The rider would be, and I suspect if we throw it back to them, yes, I think the reason why all of them are saying they're welcoming it is because they hope and they pray that actually black money will be wiped out and that the rich and the people who are doing Hawala are not going to somehow be able through subterfuge to get away.
No,
then they will resent it.
Vikram, you should
Resent it. Okay, hang on.
Vikram, you should also
all of you welcomed this. Okay? How many of you would stop welcoming it if the black money guys and the Hawala guys somehow got away with it? All of you, I assume.
In India, in 1962, after the Chinese invasion, when Nehru told people to give up their gold, all of us, our parents went and gave their Mangal Sutra. In 1965, when Lal Bahadur Shastri, after the Pakistan war, came and said, miss a meal, we miss 3 meals. Now the problem is, people don't see this as a national movement to rid the system of a 70-year-old evil. You're talking about capitalism. Somebody fainted in some queue.
Can I explain why? Can I explain why?
You're being irrelevant.
Can I explain why? By the way, I don't entirely agree with you because
what?
I don't entirely agree with you about what you're saying. Oh, people should do it as a sense of patriotic duty. I think a lot of people have taken a lot of hardship in these 7-8 days without complaining. They've done it without complaining. By and large, they've stood.
And media is prejudiced.
Even media has not necessarily been complaining. That's not entirely true either. Yes, media is. It's the media's job to be highlighting every aspect of it. As we're doing out here.
Highlighting some a bit more.
Hang on. As the good and the bad. There are three
हमको
people
पता है
saying the
आप लोग
good
क्या
thing,
कर
three
रहे
people saying the bad thing. I also think it's time that everyone should stop being in a persecution complex. Everyone's after
No,
us.
we are riding high. You are feeling persecuted.
How am I feeling persecuted?
We have got a 97% popularity rating.
I think by and large people have accepted this and have said, yes, fine, we will take the short-term pain because it's in the national interest. I'll tell you where that starts to then wither away. That starts to wither away if they are seeing in that same queue people's black money being laundered for the payment of 1%, as you were saying. If that continues, people will resent it.
We
Can
put
I
indelible
finish?
ink. In
Can I
yesterday's debate in Parliament,
Yes, you
not
put
a
indelible
single
ink, you should have done that
opposition
on day
leader,
one.
not a
The
single
indelible
opposition
ink should have been
leader
done on day
came with
one.
one idea. Economists like them have been going to the government and giving ideas. Put indelible
Yes,
ink.
and you should have done it on day one.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. You
We are
should have done it on
learning.
day one.
Many
But
mistakes were
can I
done. Many
finish?
mistakes were done. Nobody is saying it was perfect.
Fine, all right. On this episode of The Big Fight, we've decided to come to the crux of the issue. All the various questions, the permutations, the long-term question of whether demonetization will eventually in history be seen as being a successful exercise or a failure can arguably be reduced down to 6 questions. 3 of them slightly technical questions and slightly more obscure questions, and 3 of them the questions that we've been debating with black money and disruption and so on and so forth. These 6 questions, in my humble opinion, are going to decide whether demonetization will be a success or a failure. Let me start off with the first one. Will demonetization lead to a windfall gain for the RBI? Now, what do I mean when I say that? Remember, there are 14 lakh crore rupees worth of 500 and 1,000 rupee notes out there. By the 30th or the 31st of December, we will know how many of them have been redeposited. Let's say, as you can see in this graphic, of those 14 lakh crores, only 12 lakh crores come back. That means there's a 2 lakh crore rupee gap out there. That is liabilities of the Reserve Bank of India that have somehow disappeared. It's a bonanza, if you like. It's a windfall gain for the RBI. Now, can the RBI, first of all, will it be 2 lakh? Will it be 1 lakh? Will it be 3 lakh? We don't know the answer to this question. We will only know the answer to that question on the 31st of December, maybe a few days after that, once everything is counted. Now, that is a gap and that is a bonanza. What will happen with it? Will the Reserve Bank of India pass that on to the government as a dividend? And will that money then be find its way into all of your accounts, in Jan Dhan accounts? Will it lead to infrastructure spending? Will it lead to other such stuff? This big question number 1, and I'll take you through it again as we start discussing. Question number 2, what is going to happen to banks and the banking system? Whichever way you look at it, deposits in banks are rising very sharply right now. And even though some people will withdraw the money, at the end of the day, there could be 3 lakh, 4 lakh, 5 lakh crores more with the banking system. Does that bring interest rates down? Do your EMIs go down? Is lending easier? Can industry borrow money at lower rates? Can indebted industry, remember industry owes a lot of debts right now to banks. Do they suddenly become viable if interest rates come down? All of those are questions that tie up with question number 2. Question number 3, is there going to be a budget bonanza? What do I mean by this? Well, the finance minister, in all probability, when he stands up on the 1st of February, is going to feel like a really rich finance minister because people are going to suddenly be depositing a lot of money. There'll be an impression that there's been a lot more tax collected, and there could actually be a lot more tax collected, especially if you take penalties. Now, what's he going to do? Is he going to cut interest rates? I mean, is he going to cut taxes? Is he going to say corporate taxes are going down, personal income taxes are going down, other giveaways in the budget? A possibility. If that happens, people could benefit. Those are the 3 slightly technical, slightly more obscure questions. The 3 other questions: will black money truly be wiped out? A crucial question. Everyone out here, people have been standing in queues, happily, willingly, well, by and large happily and willingly, because they say it's for a national cause. What's a national cause? Black money is going to be wiped out. All right, is that going to happen? Or are the fat cats going to get away with it and the big fish going to get away with it? Are they all laundering their money as we speak? Are all the common people standing in queues and the rich people, the guys who really got black money, are they going to escape by being able to launder it? The answer to that question will eventually show whether people will welcome this in the long run or will say, well, what was all of that for? So that's the fourth question, and it's a big question. Question number 5, in the future, how will black money generation be curtailed? Will it be through an Inspector Raj? Will it be through all these new schemes that the government now is hinting it's going to come up at? Or is it not going to be curtailed? If it's not going to be curtailed, then 4 years from now, we're back to square one. What's all of this been for? And now there are 2,000 rupee notes, which can potentially be used quite simply by people out there. And a final question, and then I promise to hand it over to the panelists once I've asked all these questions. Question number 6, how long will this disruption continue? How bad is the pain going to be? Who's really going to suffer and who is suffering? Is it the people out there in the rural areas? Is it the poor? How long are they going to take the pain? And is there going to be a real impact on the economy, a long-term impact? Manmohan Singh spoke about a 2% drop in the GDP. Is that going to happen? Or is the disruption short-term inconvenience, but eventually it will all be okay? And Mr. Prime Minister and Mr. Finance Minister, I can tell you, you are correct in saying that a large number of people in this country are patiently, willingly, if not quite happily, certainly willingly taking the pain because they think that the fat cats are actually losing their ill-gotten gains. If it's all laundered, then people are going to find it very tough to forgive or forget the hardships that they've gone through. So I'm again going to come to each of you and going in reverse direction. What is it that you're picking up? Because there are two views that we are hearing. One is, oh yeah, it's all being laundered and somebody's giving this to banks. Other anecdotal views are also coming up that it's actually proving tougher and tougher to launder it. You're losing 50% of it. So now the rates for laundering are up to 50%. So they'd have been better off in just paying the tax to start with. But what do you think?
So, you know, Vikram, I don't think money is either black or white. It is the holder of the money who makes it black or white and the process which makes it black or white. And at least anecdotally, what one is hearing, especially in the city of Delhi, is that you now have conversion crorpatis. So black money is changing hands. It's going from one illegal holder to another illegal holder.
Not in Bombay.
I mean, I think more of it, at least anecdotally, one is hearing more in Delhi.
Harsh Mandar, is black money going to be wiped out?
See, black money, as Prabhat Patnaik said very much at the start, black money is not a stock, it's a process.
Yeah.
And I think
and that will bring me to my fifth point, which is future generation.
I think they're both linked. You know, so we are really, I think, trapped in the 70s and 80s sort of Bollywood movie situation where we picture this sort of black money fellow with Ajit with all his money stacked in in his mattresses, etc. That kind of black money holding has become much smaller. I mean, there are people who hold that kind of money. Some IS officers were caught with some black money in their mattresses, etc. But you're seeing that in a much smaller way. People are holding their black money in very different forms. They're holding it in in foreign bank accounts. Again, from the civil service, I'll tell you that people are actually, if people are taking bribes, I'm taking a 200 crore bribe, I get a 10-digit number, which is actually a mobile phone number, and somebody else holds the money, deals with the requirements, and all of this laundering that we are beginning to see, the creativity of what is happening on the ground. I mean, I've been moving around and I'm seeing small level, high level people. A new kind of black money is being generated right through this demonetization process. I'm not at all convinced. And you talked about the terror thing is actually especially interesting to me. Okay, if terror is being done by counterfeit notes, I mean, how long will it take them to not to produce new sets of counterfeit notes?
We've seen terrorists walking around with 2,000 rupee notes, and rest of us can't find it. The terrorists can find the 2,000 rupee notes.
I think it's very unconvincing that this is really going to attack the kind of really high level corruption
it's
of
not
big
going to
corporates.
end high level. Too much black money is Harsh's view. I guess what a lot of people are questioning now and asking is, was that not a simpler, somewhat easier way of achieving what is being achieved without having actually gone through this rather radical surgery that has been done? And let me, let me just, for example, give you one radical outcome, one other possible solution. Why don't you all weigh in on this? Now, what would have happened, for example, Arvind, and I'm giving this to you as a possibility. Let's say the following had been done. Let's say in the budget of 2016, the government had said no sales tax on digital payments or some such thing. Give stops for digital payments. Now everyone starts to do a lot more digital payments. People are downloading e-wallets and what have you. So that part of it is taken care of. No demonetization yet, but the government is doing that. Let's say in the month of June of this year, the government announces the printing of new 500 rupee notes. Why does it do that? How does it do that? The government just says something like, you know, we are bringing out pink 500 rupee notes with Mangalyaan on it after a design competition. Nobody would have paid attention to it. Secrecy is not breached in any way. The government is printing new 500 rupee notes. By the 8th of November, the government could have printed 6 lakh crore rupees worth of new 500 rupee notes. And when you announce demonetization after that, within a week or 2 weeks, you could have had remonetization. That cash could have been out everywhere. And as a result, you wouldn't have seen 50 days or 40 days of disruption, and you would have still achieved the same purpose.
So Vikram,
What's wrong with this scheme? No, first tell me what's wrong with this scheme.
I think these are all hypothetical schemes, and these are
But
scenarios.
it's an obvious scheme that somebody could think of. Why won't no notes printed?
You can simulate. Then people who probably were privy to the decision didn't have the pleasure of simulating this exercise the way you are simulating. The factors, and let me repeat what the Prime Minister said on November 8th, and we keep missing that point. There was black money, there was fake currency, there were terror ops, drugs, hawala, and Naxal operations. Now, none of the four you are discussing. There is clearly a clear advantage and a positive outcome that we've seen in the other side. Black money was always a game, and in the game, digital was one of the ways to curtail this black money. So, in hindsight, I think we can make all these schemes happen. In hindsight, I agree with you. We could have had a lot of a faster remonetization. But let me complete, Vikram. I think the point is, as I said, there is a reboot that has happened, and in the reboot, people accept change very fast. And you see, you're talking about 1984. We didn't have mobile phones in this country. Today we have 100 crore mobile phones.
I get for this.
But I get all of that. I get all of that. I get all of that. I'm still asking, why could you not have printed the notes in advance?
So absolutely, that should have been done. If you
Why could you not have printed the notes in advance?
You should have done that. And
6 lakh crore rupees, 5 lakh crore rupees in advance.
The point is, as I said, you're only tackling 1% of the black wealth and 3.5% of the black income, and the black income generation will continue. So this is not giving you any gain, but the economy is collapsing because the medium of circulation has gone. So the loss to the economy is 100 times more than the gain that you might make.
One of the questions, Derek, that I guess the government would be slightly concerned about is the extent of notes that we are hearing about being seized, because that might be a pointer that there is still corruption and there is still certain amount of black money that is being created.
Absolutely, because that figure of 14.5 lakh or 15 lakh, the gossip in Central Hall was that about 11 lakh or 11.5 lakh would come back, and then the RBI would pay the dividend of 2.5, 3 lakhs. Now that number has pretty much gone out of the window. Then you have this fake amnesty scheme. Then you've had about these 100 mini rollbacks which keep being announced. Then when and cashless is, see, please understand, we are not opposed to, no one is opposed to plastic, no one is opposed to cashless. But when 4 out of 5 villages in India don't have a bank, when 95% of the debit cards in India are not used to transact any business, they're only used to withdraw cash. So these are the basic problems when connectivity is so poor. Now, if you thought of all these issues, why weren't these issues addressed? And now you're coming up, this lottery scheme, glory be. First, it is balloony to announce a lottery scheme in the middle of all this. Because it's like selling a refrigerator to an Eskimo. The plastic is not the solution. You have to get more currency notes out. The reality is, Vikram, it is not going to be solved in the next 3-4 months, because this will take at least another 7-8 months to get the currency back. So what has really happened is pink has become the new black.